My name is Wanda Marlowe, and I am 60 years old. For most of my life, I believed I had everything a woman could ask for: a loyal husband, two accomplished children, and a company we had built from nothing but grit and sleepless nights. For 32 years, Jacob and I worked side by side. He managed the drivers, the long hauls, the chaos of transportation, while I handled clients' contracts and the delicate arithmetic that decided whether we survived another month. Our children, Matthew and Olivia, grew up in the shadow of this empire we called Harrison Logistics. Matthew had become a lawyer, sharp and ambitious. Olivia, creative and restless, had opened her own design agency with the capital I helped her secure. I thought I was being a good mother, giving them not just money, but also introductions to our most valuable clients. Looking back, I wonder if I had raised them to believe everything was theirs by default. The night before my 60th birthday, I stayed late at the office. The building was quiet, the hum of fluorescent lights echoing over stacks of contracts. Then faint at first, but unmistakable voices drifted through the air vent above me. The conference room was directly below. I froze. Jacob's voice was the first I recognized. "So tomorrow we do it. Everything's ready." My stomach clenched. "Yeah," Matthew replied, confident. "She'll think she's signing routine business paperwork. Divorce decree, property transfers, the works. She won't even read them. She trusts us." There was a pause, and then Olivia's voice, uncertain, but not enough to stop her. "Are you sure she won't suspect anything?" Jacob laughed, a sound I once found warm, but now felt like poison. "She has no idea. Tomorrow we'll sit her down in the living room. I'll give her some speech about expanding operations. She'll sign it all. Then she's out, and Jennifer moves in right away." Jennifer, his mistress, the widow of our former partner, Stephen Collins. "How long has Jennifer been waiting for this?" Matthew asked. 2 years, Jacob replied without shame. "The moment Valeria's gone, she takes her place. We merge her company with ours and corner the regional market." Olivia snickered. "Perfect. Mom always acted like she built everything herself. Tomorrow will be her last day as Mrs. Harrison. Let's make it memorable." They all laughed. For a moment, I couldn't move. My body was ice, my breath shallow. Then I sat there, still expressionless, until the room below went silent. I did not cry. I did not scream. I simply gathered my briefcase, switched off the lights, and walked into the night with the weight of betrayal pressing into my bones. At home, I greeted Jacob as though nothing had changed. I cooked. I smiled. I played the role of wife. When he leaned down to kiss me, whispering, "Big day tomorrow, love. Your 60th birthday. We have something special planned," I almost laughed. Instead, I whispered back, "I'm sure you do." That night, I lay awake beside him, staring into the dark. My mind replayed the year's mornings spent hauling ledgers, evenings spent counting every cent to make payroll days when we thought one wrong move would break us. I thought we had survived it all together. Instead, he had spent 2 years plotting my erasure. By dawn, I made a decision. I quietly packed a small suitcase, my mother's jewelry, a handful of photographs, and essential documents I had already set aside. I hid the bag in the trunk of our old Ford, ignored, but still reliable. At breakfast, I placed eggs and toast before Jacob. He grinned. "Come to the living room around 10, he said. "You'll love the surprise." I nodded. "I'll be there." By 10, Matthew and Olivia had arrived, bright and smiling. Olivia pressed a gift box into my hand. "Later, Mom," she said, her eyes glinting with something I didn't want to name. The living room was rearranged. Chairs in a half circle, a table at the center. On it, a thick folder. Jacob stood tall behind me, his hand heavy on my shoulder, as if anchoring me in place. "Just routine paperwork," Matthew explained, pointing to lines. "Authorizations for expansion. Nothing complicated." My fingers brushed the pen. I opened the folder. Pages upon pages. Contracts, legal jargon clauses so dense most people would skim. I did not skim. I did not read. I simply signed, line after line, my hand steady, my face serene. When I closed the folder, I looked up. Their laughter broke like glass. Jacob leaned back, howling. Matthew's grin stretched smug. Olivia's hand covered her mouth, but her eyes shone with cruel delight. "You're pathetic," Olivia whispered. I smiled back. They thought they had won. But what they did not know, what I had kept hidden even from myself until that moment, was that I was already ahead of them. I didn't slam the door or demand answers. I walked upstairs with the same slow rhythm as any other day, collected my purse, and descended past the sound of champagne glasses clinking in the living room. "Goodbye," I said from the doorway. None of them turned to look at me. Outside, the air was crisp, carrying the faint hum of cicadas. I opened the trunk of the old Ford where my hidden suitcase waited. With hands that no longer trembled, I drove away from the house that had been mine for 3 decades and didn't once look back in the rearview mirror. The motel I chose was far from glamorous yellow walls faded by time carpet that smelled faintly of bleach. Still, it was clean, anonymous, and exactly what I needed. I sat on the bed and for the first time since overhearing them, let myself truly breathe. But I didn't cry. Instead, I opened my laptop. Months ago, I had already begun collecting copies of documents, emails, and statements I didn't fully understand at the time, but suspected might become important. Perhaps my instincts had whispered to me long before the truth revealed itself. Now it was time to use them. I dialed the first number. "Caroline, it's Wanda. I need your services. Urgently." Caroline Foster, a forensic accountant I had worked with on a project years ago, was sharp as a blade. She didn't ask questions beyond when and where. "Tomorrow morning. Bring your team. I'll cover whatever you need." The second call, Thomas Grayson, corporate attorney. His reputation was formidable, his voice calm. "Thomas, I need immediate representation. It's urgent." "I'll clear my schedule," he replied without hesitation. The third call was harder, my hand tightening on the phone. Detective Sean O'Brien, the same man who had investigated Stephen Collins's sudden heart attack 8 years ago. He once told me quietly that something about that case never sat right. "Sean, it's Wanda Marlowe." Silence, then recognition. "Of course. What's going on?" "I need you to reopen a door you thought was closed." "Stephen Collins. And Jennifer Collins." His voice dropped heavy. "Not over the phone. Tell me where to meet you." Finally, I called Miguel, the warehouse manager, who had been with us for 15 years. A man of few words, but loyal to his bones. "Mrs. Marlowe," he answered. Voice cautious. "I heard you. Left the house today." "News travels fast," I said with a faint smile. "Listen carefully. Keep documenting everything: safety violations, missing shipments, late payments. Don't let anyone know we're in contact. As far as they're concerned, I'm gone." His voice cracked slightly. "Understood. I'm sorry about what they did to you." "Don't be sorry," I told him. "Be thorough." After I hung up, I stared at the silent motel room. 4 calls, 4 threads. Tomorrow they would start weaving into something stronger than betrayal. Jacob, Matthew, and Olivia thought I had walked out broken. They thought I was erased. But the truth was far colder, far sharper. I had left not to disappear, but to prepare. And I wasn't the one who should be afraid. The next morning at precisely 8 o'clock, a knock rattled the thin motel door. Caroline Foster stepped inside, flanked by 2 associates with laptops already humming. She glanced around the modest room, but didn't comment. "Show me what you've got," she said. I laid out the folders, USB drives, and printed statements I had quietly gathered over the past year. She spread them across the desk, her fingers moving fast, eyes sharp behind her glasses, the room filled with the quiet chaos of keystrokes and murmurs. Hours passed. Finally, Caroline looked up. "Wanda, this isn't just mismanagement. It's systematic theft. 3 years' worth. Fictitious vendors, inflated expense reports, shell accounts. I'm seeing at least 1.2 million siphoned off." Her associate spun his laptop toward me, highlighting transfers that glowed like red warning signs. I forced my voice to remain steady. "Can you prove it?" She gave a thin smile. "Absolutely. They weren't even careful. Once we map the trail, it's bulletproof." I leaned back in the chair. My family thought I was naive, distracted with spreadsheets. In truth, they had underestimated me for years. By 10 o'clock, Thomas Grayson arrived. His tailored suit looked oddly out of place against the faded curtains of the motel, but his presence carried a quiet authority. He reviewed the birthday folder, the papers I had signed under Jacob's watchful eye. "This," he said firmly, tapping the signatures, "is fraud. They use deception to strip you of assets. Matthew, as a practicing lawyer, committed malpractice and potentially a criminal offense. The divorce papers might stand, but the rest, contestable and prosecutable." "What do you need from me?" I asked. "Witnesses, documentation, anything that shows intent." I told him about Ryan Mitchell Matthews' law school friend present that day as their silent witness. I told him about the overheard conversation through the air vent. Thomas's pen raced across his notebook. "Good," he said. "That's more than enough to start. We'll build this case brick by brick until it crushes them." At 2 in the afternoon, Detective Sean O'Brien arrived. His eyes were the same sharp, restless, haunted by unsolved questions. I poured him black coffee and told him everything: Jacob's betrayal, Jennifer's role, the plan to erase me. And then carefully I reminded him of Stephen Collins. "You think Jennifer killed him?" Sean said flatly. I held his gaze. Stephen wasn't her only husband. Before him, she was married to David Warren. He died young too. Heart attack. She inherited everything both times. Doesn't that sound familiar? For the first time, Sean's composure faltered. He set his cup down slowly. 2 husbands. Same cause of death. Both left her wealthy. And now she's with Jacob. The room seemed colder. He stood abruptly. "I need to pull those files. Toxicology reports. If you're right." "Then Jacob isn't just betraying me," I finished for him. "He's lying beside a woman who leaves her men in coffins." When Sean left, silence pressed heavy on the motel walls. My pulse thundered. It wasn't just about betrayal or fraud anymore. It was murder. That evening, as the sky bruised into twilight, my phone rang. It was Sean. Wanda listened carefully. I pulled both reports, Stephen Collins and David Warren. Cause of death was listed as heart attack, but both men had elevated dioxin levels in their blood. Dioxin can mimic heart failure. Neither man had a prescription for it. I pressed a hand to my mouth. She poisoned them. "Yes," he said grimly. "And if Jacob increased his life insurance recently, he's next." The phone trembled against my ear. My husband hadn't just plotted to erase me. He had chosen a woman who would kill him the moment she got everything. For years, I believed I was blind. But perhaps I had simply been waiting for my eyes to finally open. That night, I didn't close my eyes once. I lay awake in the dim motel room, the hum of the air conditioner masking the storm inside my chest. Betrayal was already a knife in my back, but Sean's words replayed in my mind, colder than steel. She poisoned them. Jennifer had murdered 2 husbands, both under the guise of heart attacks, both leaving her wealthy. And now Jacob had placed his life and his fortune into her hands. I stared at the ceiling, every detail aligning into something monstrous. My husband hadn't just wanted me gone. He had chosen a woman who intended to kill him once he outlived his usefulness. And he was too blind, too arrogant to see it. By morning, Miguel's report came through on my encrypted phone. His voice message was clipped as though afraid someone might overhear. "Mrs. Marlowe, it's worse than we thought. Matthew fired 3 senior managers this week. Deliveries are late. 2 warehouse accidents already. Olivia sold 3 company trucks at half their value to cover debts for her agency. Drivers are quitting. Clients are walking away." I listened twice. Every word was a stone sinking in my gut. The company Jacob, Matthew, and I had built brick by brick for 32 years was crumbling in their hands like sand through fingers. Once that would have broken me. Now I felt something unexpected clarity. I whispered to myself, "Let it burn." By mid-afternoon, my phone rang again. Elizabeth Anderson, a name that carried weight in our industry. She had been my rival once, but also a mentor when I was just starting. Her voice was calm, steady, as though she had been waiting for this moment. "Wanda, I heard what happened. I'm sorry." "Thank you," I said carefully. She didn't hesitate. "Come work with me. As a partner, I'll double your salary from Harrison. Bring your expertise, your client relationships. And if your loyal employees want to follow, I'll take them too." The room seemed to tilt. A lifeline offered just as the walls closed in. "When do I start?" I asked. "Monday," Elizabeth replied. Then softer. "And Wanda, don't waste time grieving what's already lost. Build something better." After the call, I stood before the motel mirror. For the first time in weeks, maybe years, I saw not just the woman who had been betrayed, but the woman who had survived. Lines of age marked my face, but behind them was resolve as sharp as any blade. I would not be erased. Caroline's financial trail was nearly complete. Thomas was building a case so airtight it would choke them. And Sean was uncovering a truth darker than any of us had imagined. Together, we weren't just going to fight back. We were going to end them. Still beneath my determination, I felt the sting of something bitter. Jacob had chosen his greed, Matthew, his arrogance, Olivia, her envy, and in their choices they had made themselves my enemies. The people I once loved most in the world had joined hands to destroy me, and that was a war they would regret. Monday morning, I stepped into Elizabeth Anderson's office. Glass walls, polished floors, the faint scent of cedar and fresh coffee. It was the opposite of the crumbling chaos I had left behind. Elizabeth rose from her desk, her eyes steady and warm. "Welcome home," she said simply. Those 2 words pierced something inside me. I nodded, unable to speak for a moment, then followed her into a conference room where contracts, client portfolios, and strategy maps were already waiting. Within days, word spread quietly through the industry. Wanda Marlowe was not finished. She was stronger. Partnered with Anderson Logistics and carrying 30 years of client loyalty with her. By the end of the first week, 15 drivers and 8 warehouse staff had defected from Harrison Logistics to join me. Miguel coordinated it all, his voice steady, but tinged with pride whenever he reported. "They're loyal to you, Mrs. Marlowe, not to them." Clients followed. One by one, contracts that Jacob thought secured shifted across the table to Elizabeth and me. The tide had turned. But rebuilding was only half the battle. I wanted justice. I wanted the truth exposed so thoroughly that Jacob, Matthew, and Olivia would never recover. Caroline delivered first. She laid a thick binder on the desk, its spine creaking under the weight of numbers. "It's all here," she said. "Shell accounts, falsified, invoices theft in broad daylight. Over 1.2 million gone. This isn't negligence, it's fraud." Thomas arrived the next day carrying legal drafts sharper than any sword. "We'll hit them on every front, civil, criminal, and professional. Matthew will lose his license. Jacob will face federal charges. Olivia, well, her role is smaller, but she'll be dragged under by association." And then there was Sean. His face had grown graver with each passing day. "Jennifer Collins is worse than we imagined," he told me. "She didn't just kill her husbands. She's planning something with Jacob. Phone records show them talking about a permanent solution to an obstacle. That obstacle is you." I felt my chest tighten. So they weren't just trying to take everything from me. They wanted me dead. "Yes," Sean said. "And Jennifer won't stop there. Jacob increased his life insurance $2 million all to her. She'll poison him too. It's only a matter of time." A silence stretched between us, heavy with the weight of murder and betrayal. Then I said quietly, "Then let's not give her the time." The plan took shape piece by piece. Caroline's binder, Thomas's legal arsenal, Sean's murder investigation, Miguel's internal reports. My role was simple: pull it all together. Package it so cleanly that no agency, no court, no jury could ignore it. I spent nights at my kitchen table surrounded by stacks of labeled folders, 11 packages in total. Each one a nail in the coffin Jacob and Jennifer thought they were preparing for me. The 12th package, though, was different. It contained a single photograph, Jacob and Jennifer in the Harrison Logistics office at 2:47 a.m., mouths pressed together in a kiss, captured by security cameras Miguel had saved. Beside it, a handwritten note. "I know everything." I sealed the envelope, addressed it to Jennifer's penthouse, and sent it by courier. Sometimes the most dangerous weapon isn't evidence, it's fear. 2 months after my 60th birthday, dawn broke with sirens. At 6 a.m., federal agents stormed Harrison Logistics. Uniforms swarmed the building, seizing computers, hard drives, filing cabinets. Employees stood outside in the parking lot, their faces pale with confusion, as men in dark jackets taped seized property across the glass doors. Bank accounts were frozen. Operations shut down overnight. By mid-morning, Jacob was arrested in a motel room with Jennifer. He looked stunned, hair unkempt, half-dressed, but Jennifer only sneered, as though she'd expected this day, but never feared it. Matthew's fall came next. Agents marched into his law firm in the middle of a partners' meeting. He was still clutching his briefcase when they clapped the cuffs on him. His colleagues stared, as though a mask had been ripped from his face. Olivia tried to run her design agency that morning, but it was already too late. Officers entered, sealed the premises, and carried boxes of evidence. She sat at her desk, trembling mascara smudged, as they read her rights aloud. And Jennifer Collins, her mask shattered entirely. Arrested at her penthouse, charged with the murders of David Warren and Stephen Collins, plus conspiracy to murder me. The agents found dioxin in her cabinet, detailed notes about poisoning Jacob, and emails tying her to every dark plot. For years, she had slipped through cracks. Now those cracks became her prison bars. The trials dragged on for months, the courtroom air, thick with whispers and flashbulbs. I sat quietly through hearings, never speaking, just watching. Jacob received 7 years in federal prison for fraud and tax evasion. The murder charge was harder to prove, but his role in the conspiracy left him disgraced. He looked smaller each time I saw him, as though prison walls had already begun to hollow him out. Matthew was disbarred, his arrogance shattered. 2 years in prison, followed by a lifetime of ruined reputation. He avoided my gaze every time shame burning across his face. Olivia, the least guilty, yet still complicit, received probation and community service. She wept during sentencing, her voice breaking as she said she never wanted it to go that far. I couldn't decide whether her tears were regret or self-pity. Jennifer Collins didn't cry. She stared at the judge with icy disdain as he sentenced her to life without parole. The evidence tied her not only to David and Stephen, but to 2 other men across state lines, 4 dead husbands, 4 inheritances, 4 silent graves. The verdict slammed like a gavel against my heart. Justice was brutal, but it didn't bring back the 32 years I had given to Jacob or the family I thought I had. When the final trial ended, I returned to my new apartment, a modest place downtown, decorated in colors that pleased me, not anyone else. I poured a glass of wine, opened the balcony doors, and breathed in freedom. Harrison Logistics had declared bankruptcy. The empire we had built together was gone, dissolved into debts and ashes. And yet, as I stood alone overlooking the city, I realized something startling. I wasn't mourning. I was free. 6 months later, my mornings no longer began with conference calls or the sound of Jacob slamming doors. They began with quiet sunlight spilling across my apartment floor, the scent of coffee, and the luxury of deciding what I wanted to do with my day. Anderson Logistics was thriving. Elizabeth and I had doubled our client base in a single quarter. I had brought in over $8 million worth of contracts, not by force, but because people trusted me. Loyalty built on respect is stronger than fear, and I finally understood that. Miguel now served as our operations manager, his sharp eye and steady hands, keeping everything running smoothly. Some of my former employees still called me Mrs. Marlowe, but now when they did, their voices carried warmth, not obligation. Outside of work, I discovered pieces of myself I'd forgotten existed. Yoga on Wednesday mornings, a book club on Fridays, where laughter filled the air instead of arguments. Weekends where I boarded a plane on a whim, Paris, Kyoto, Rome cities I had once only dreamed of while buried in ledgers. My life was no longer survival, it was mine. And yet the ghosts of my family did not leave me entirely. Letters began arriving one by one. The first was from Jacob. His handwriting was shaky, his words filled with self-pity. "Wanda, please, send something for my commissary account. Prison food is terrible. I think of you every day." The second from Matthew. Pride stripped away, he begged for help finding work once he was released. "I know I made mistakes. You're still my mother. Please give me another chance." The third from Olivia. Her letter was tear-stained, the words stumbling over apologies and requests. "Mom, I didn't mean for things to go so far. Could you loan me something to restart my agency? I swear I'll pay you back." I kept every letter, but I never answered. Instead, I placed them in a folder on my shelf, a plain brown folder with one label written in black ink, birthday gifts. Sometimes I open it not out of spite, but as a reminder of what betrayal can cost and what freedom it can give. People often ask if I'm angry. I tell them no. Anger is heavy, and I have no use for carrying weight that isn't mine anymore. Instead, I am grateful. Grateful that their betrayal forced me to see who they truly were. Grateful that I discovered strength I never knew I had. Grateful that in the ashes of my old life, I built something new and better. On my balcony overlooking the city lights, I sometimes whisper to the night air. On my 60th birthday, they tried to bury me. Instead, they planted me. And the life I've grown since then is proof that even the cruelest gifts can become blessings.